I hope you're following me on Twitter. Let me say that first. My name is Dawn Montgomery Greene. I go by Mississippi Dawn on Twitter. I'm very blessed to be standing here before you all. When I was approached about doing Failure Lab, I have to make a comment about my initial response, because I was like, who in the hell wants to talk about all of their failures to a group of strangers? But for me, it was a moment where there has been something that I've been evaluating about how I do business and how I handle my personal relationships. And this was a time for me to share that with other people who may not view failure the same way I do. I know that back in high school, there was this time where I wanted to fit in. I was the light-skinned girl with very long hair, and I ran for every student organization office. I was a known track athlete. I played basketball. I was a little bit of everything at school. And one of the biggest things that I learned early on was that everyone is not your friend. And that was something that, although I wanted to remember that and like really understand that people may not have your best interests at heart, I'm still dealing with something like that. In high school, I had a friend that decided that once I was going to announce that I was going to run for homecoming queen, and I was going to start my campaign a year early, and I was ready, she decided to announce to majority of the people that I played sports with, as well as administrators, oh, you know she's bipolar. That's what I did. I laughed because, you know, for me, I had already known that I was bipolar for going on a year at that time. I was diagnosed with this mental illness at the age of 15, and growing up in South Mississippi, no one talked about mental illnesses. No one talked about what was going on, what depression looked like, manic episodes, what could I possibly defend here now that my best friend decided to tell everybody that I was bipolar. Well, that was a moment for me to be more aware of who I am and whether or not I can stand in front of people and say, yes, I'm bipolar, but I can be homecoming queen. Vote for me. You know? Don't you want both sides? You want the manic, you want the depressive? I got you. Well, that didn't work because there was something else that I was dealing with that this young lady, again, who I forgave for telling people that I was bipolar, she decided that, oh, by the way, she's a hoe. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, you're not my friend. You're really not my friend now, and I shared that because at that time in high school, you're trying to figure out where these various emotions are coming from. You're attracted to this person. You want to be with this person. But I wasn't your average 16-year-old at that time. I mean, I was molested by my father from the age of 5 years old to 9 years old. I knew more about my body than anybody else that I went to school with, basically. So and before I got to my junior year in high school, I had already been date raped by 2 people I trusted. I had already been in situations that I literally was put in those situations, and I just did what I had to do to try to get out of them. But again, that's not gonna help me win homecoming queen, And it's not gonna help my reputation and everything that I had built. I was already serving on various community boards and all of that as a junior in high school, and oh my gosh, she's promiscuous. I mean, what else is there to do in South Mississippi if you're not playing sports and actually volunteering? Nothing. I mean, so for me, I went off to college and I decided to go a different route. I decided to go to an HBCU. I went to Fort Valley State University, and that's here in the state of Georgia. And I decided, you know what, this is my fresh start. Bipolar, promiscuous Dawn is going to make a life for herself. Here today, yes, I get on campus and I'm like one of the very few out-of-state students. I stand out because, you know, I speak up, I ask questions, I'm all over freshman orientation, meeting everybody, and I get the nickname Mississippi. And it's because I'm country, you know, I'm very friendly, I'm around everyone. And of course, you know, I get approached, and there were, at this time, this was before social media was big, but there was a message board that I had been on, and I had talked about, you know, being bipolar. And I had a young man come up to me, and he was like, I heard you crazy. I was like, I am. You know, I'll take that. Don't mess with me. So the next week, you know, I was approached by this same guy who felt like, you know, he could take it a little bit further. And I had to tell him, you know, no, I'm not, you know, I'm really here to figure out what I want to do with my life, and I'm running for, you know, freshman class president, and I want to see if maybe one day I could be Miss Fort Valley State University. Bipolar, promiscuous Dawn, right? And so at the end of the day, I ran for Miss Freshman, I won. I was like, snap, people don't care that I'm bipolar. Are you serious? And lo and behold, I had a friend that I had met at freshman orientation, had shared all of my little secrets, all of the things I dealt with when I was younger, and blah, blah, blah. And on a trip to the shrimp boat, that's what we call this random place that had like the best fried shrimp. And mind you, right now I'm vegan, so let me have this moment of talking about fried shrimp because I don't eat that anymore. Yes, okay. So we're walking to the shrimp boat, and she says, you know what? I don't understand how you're bipolar, you're promiscuous, you've been out there, you still volunteer, you still do what you do, you still have great grades in school, you just became Miss Freshman, and you have no family financial support, but you're still able to provide for yourself and do what you need to do to go to class. I actually hate you. And I was like, girl, let's get this shrimp and go on back to the dorm and catch and see what's on TV. But she actually meant that. And I say that because you have to be mindful of people who try to downplay your blessings, who downplay your talents, who downplay who you are as a human being. Yes, I'm bipolar. Yes, at that time, I had a boyfriend actually at that time, and you know, if you knew my history, yes, I was promiscuous. But none of those people there in that area where I was in life knew that I had been molested by my father, or knew that I had found out I was bipolar at 15 and had to deal with the shaming that came with that. I mean, I went to church, and my grandmother was the preacher, and we had a member that left the church because she found out I was bipolar. And I swear to you now, I felt like this lady was schizophrenic, you know, like, so I'm like, how are you judging me? And you're crazy too. So I share that because here it is, from high school to college, these relationships somewhat repeated themselves, you see? And somehow my energy attracted these people. Here it is, a couple of months ago, I had to send an email that could have been an actual phone call, or it could have been a face-to-face meeting. But I had to resign from a position. I was working with a friend. This was one of those moments where the quote or the saying where people tell you, don't mix business and pleasure, don't work with your friends. That situation, this was one of those. And in that, I learned a lot from that relationship, that friendship, that, you know, that business sense that I learned from this person that I was able to give to them. But one of the things that I learned was that they were not receptive to the fact that I was no longer able to give them what they needed. And all of these friendships that I talk about, from high school to college to now, I've invested time. We as women, and I'm sure there's women in the audience, we invest a lot of time in our friendships. We need that type of community. We need to be able to relate to someone. Some of us have male friends, and that's fine. But with women, it's very important that we have our go-to friend, like, hey girl, let me tell you what happened. Hey girl, let me tell you I ain't bipolar today. So if you don't have that person that's there, then who are we? Well, who can we say that we are without having those friends or those relationships? I know for me, quite frankly, from high school to college to now, that one of the main things that I forgot to be a friend to was actually myself. And understanding that I'm going to go through various things in life. I'm going to be able to tell people, I'm bipolar, I'm married, I have 5 children, 2 I gave birth to. Yes, I look this good, thank you. I am also working with my husband with his law firm. I have my own sports media company. I work with various community organizations, which, okay, the promiscuous part, I'm sure they're going to see the video. We can talk about it. But to be honest with you, if I had have allowed those friendships to make me bitter about connecting with people, about sharing my story, about me being who I am, then I would not be able to stand in front of all of you tonight to tell you that you have to be mindful of who you share your life with, who you share your energy with, who you want to create a life experience with. I thank all 3 of those women. To this day, if I was to see them, I'd be like, hey girl, how you doing? Don't catch me on a bad day. But I learned a lot from that, and that actually helped me professionally. I've shared this with my husband numerous of times, where I can handle a lot of criticism and rejection professionally. But personally, I'm still dealing with that. I'm still growing into who I can be and where I can be at a point where I don't give a shit anymore. We as women, we care. That's what we do. That's what God created us for. But if we don't have someone else that does, it's kind of hard for us to identify who we are and what we're here for and what our purpose is. The last thing I want to leave with you all is that now I'm at a point where I cut people off with no hesitation, no explanation, no warning. And if you do some phony shit, or if I feel like you can't be trusted, life is way too short, and I'm getting too old to be hanging out with people that do not understand the concept of loyalty. You can't trust everybody, you can't love everybody, but you can trust yourself, and you can love yourself. And trust me, I love me.